Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining. We're going to transition to the East, Middle, and Outer presentation. Again, welcome. My name is Tolu Ibikunle, and I am your host today for the East, Middle, and Outer session. If you have any questions before we begin, I'm happy to hear them now so that I can also address them throughout the presentation. Are there any questions that anyone has so far? Okay, we're going to just go ahead and get started. We're here today to walk you through the East, Middle, and Outer Community Area Plan and discuss how it may impact you and your community. Since there are no questions, I'm going to go ahead and just jump in. But I just want to confirm, can you all see the presentation?
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you.
See the first slide.
The reason for developing community area plans is because Charlotte has been continuously growing for decades and is projected to keep growing. Now, in response to the projected growth, our city adopted the Charlotte Future 2040 Comprehensive Plan in 2021, which defines our 20-year vision for growth and change in Charlotte. The plan essentially calls for future growth to benefit as many people as possible. While the comprehensive plan provides the broad vision for our community, there are other levels of guidance needed to make our vision come to life. This is the planning framework here on the slide, adopted within the comprehensive plan. It identifies the subsequent levels of guidance needed. For example, Level 2 strategic plans are citywide documents that provide more details than the comprehensive plan on a particular topic. For example, the Strategic Mobility Plan, or SMP, provides more guidance on how to realize Goal 5 in the comprehensive plan, which is creating safe and equitable mobility choices. Level 3 is the community area plans, which provide more guidance for the appropriate land uses, building form, and infrastructure needed throughout the plan geography. Level 4 specific plans focus on smaller geographies and provide more guidance for implementation of specific projects. It's important to note that levels 2 through 4 all build upon the vision and goals outlined in the comprehensive plan. Community area plans are essentially about creating complete communities, which means creating places that integrates housing, job opportunities, and daily goods and services in an accessible manner. In other words, live, work, and play in the environment that you live in. Community area plans developed within a 5-phase process that occurred over 2 years. Staff has offered multiple engagement opportunities in each phase, and the outcomes of each phase have been shared along the way. This slide summarizes engagement efforts from phase 1 through phase 4 of the process, where we've reached over 400,000 residents both online and in person, using a range of constant and coordinated tactics. This includes tactics such as social media, our website, and all the online interactive content we produce, such as story maps and videos. While virtual interactions are wonderful, we still really value in-person interactions, and we're able to interact with 6,000 people between phase 1 and 4. For this planning effort, we hosted 50 workshops in which we asked residents to join us, but we also made an effort to meet people where they were by attending other meetings, festivals, and libraries, and more. You can see the geographic dispersion of our in-person interactions on the map. Throughout phases 1 through 4, we received 1,700 comments that helped shape the draft plans. And I'd like to mention all this engagement builds upon the feedback received through the 500,000 interactions during the comprehensive plan development and the 6,000 interactions with the policy map. The plans developed using systematic approaches and processes, meaning they were developed in the same way and will have the same components and format within them. While plans developed systematically, each plan includes both unique content that reflects the individual character of that geography, as well as some new common policy guidance that helps achieve our vision. These plans provide a common set of considerations for all decision makers to ensure we're consistently evaluating options in line with the city's vision. Over time, these considerations will help ensure growth is accommodated in a way that respects established neighborhoods, aligns with growth with our infrastructure capacity, and it creates vibrant mixed-use centers for all. This table of contents within the East, Middle, and Outer Community Area Plan is exactly the same as you would see in all the other plans. Now, I will keep the table of contents visible in each slide for tracking purposes. For reference, the East, Middle, and Outer geography is roughly bounded by Shamrock Drive, Robinson Church Road, and Reedy Creek to the north. The City of Charlotte limits to the east, Sardis and Randolph Roads to the south, and Wendover Road and Eastway Drive to the west. Each plan begins with an overview of the area's profile, including a summary of projected residential units and new jobs, as well as a comparison of local demographics to citywide demographics. The next chapter outlines the geography's greatest needs and prioritized goals. Needs are focused on increasing access to employment opportunities, access to housing options, and daily goods and services, and reducing environmental impacts. The plans focused on these four needs because these are metrics identified in the comprehensive plan as paramount for ensuring future growth benefits as many people as possible. The 10 comprehensive plan goals were linked to these four metrics, and if a metric scored less than 5, the associated goals were identified as priorities for the geography. Please note that all goals are important, but this prioritized list will help prioritize limited dollars and resources. Chapter 4 focuses on the recommended development pattern for the geography through the 2040 policy map, which is shown here on this slide. The colors on the map relate to the types of intensity of development that is appropriate in the area. To learn more about the colors, please see the place type descriptions in the appendix. It's important to note that the plans recommend a large portion of the geography to remain as is, meaning if redevelopment occurs in these areas like Neighborhood 1, and for reference, Neighborhood 1 is marked by your traditional single-family neighborhoods. And Neighborhood 1 on the slide is this light yellow color on the map. So essentially, if redevelopment occurs in these areas, then the new development should match the scale and intensity of development on the ground today. The plan recommends that 18% of the geography evolve into a different place type of development and a different type of development than what exists today. For example, to meet this geography's needs, goals for the future, some commercial sites are recommended to develop into community activity centers. This place type change will add new mixed-use development to the recommended areas, strategically providing access to new housing, jobs, goods, and services. New development is expected to provide all the necessary mobility, open space, and placemaking elements to realize the aspiration of a community activity center. This targeted amount of change will help accommodate our projected growth in a way that respects neighborhoods, pairs growth with infrastructure capacity, and great mixed-use centers which help increase access across Charlotte. The policy map is expected to change over time, and there's guidance with the program guide, specifically Table 3 in the program guide, minor map amendment criteria, to ensure that future requests are aligned with our growth strategy. Other pages in Chapter 4 explain how recommended change helps advance the geography's priority goals and address their greatest needs. For example, a place type change from commercial to community activity center will add new development to the recommended areas, which advances Goal 1, 10-minute neighborhoods, by encouraging a mix of residential and non-residential uses within a centralized and interconnected development. This place type change, will introduce new mixed-use development to recommended areas, also advancing Goal 2, neighborhood diversity and inclusion, and Goal 3, housing access for all, by increasing access to housing choices, including the number and types of residential uses where they previously did not exist. Future community activity centers are recommended along existing or planned high-performance transit lines or walking trails. As such, this place type change will add new mixed-use development to recommended areas and advance Goal 4, transit and trail-oriented development, or 2TOD, by increasing the number of households and jobs with access to high-performance transit stations or trails, either directly next to or within a half-mile walk or 2-mile bike ride. It will also advance Goal 8, diverse and resilient economic opportunity, by increasing access to job opportunities, including the number and types of jobs for different skill sets where they didn't previously exist. Chapter 5, Supporting the Vision, includes 5 sections and references the Neighborhood Toolkit. The Neighborhood Toolkit is intended to ensure that all residents are aware of the great programs that are currently available to them to address their needs. The intent is that it's a resource, to empower neighborhoods who want to take some action. The toolkit outlines existing programs neighborhoods can take and, and tap into to amenitize an common open space and create a neighborhood park. As a reminder, the Neighborhood Toolkit is located in the appendix. The mobility section was developed in coordination with CDOT, or the Charlotte Department of Transportation, CATS, Charlotte Area Transit System, and the CRTPO, or Charlotte Regional Transportation Planning Organization. This section restates that Goal 5, safe and equitable mobility, is important across Charlotte. It includes a clip of the citywide streets map, which outlines the future cross-sections for arterial streets in Charlotte. The smaller streets are informed by the Unified Development Ordinance regulations. This next section summarizes the Citywide Strategic Mobility Plan, or SMP, that I referred to earlier in the presentation, and it highlights the strategic investment areas, or SIAs, within the geography. As a reminder, the SMP, or Strategic Mobility Plan, is Level 2 guidance that outlines the city's mobility policies. SIA is a citywide investment strategy for maximizing the city's limited investment dollars in an efficient and impactful way. SIA is filling safe mobility gaps by creating sidewalks and shared use paths, installing pedestrian signals and crosswalks, street lighting and trees, traffic, traffic calming measures, and American with Disability Act compliant or ADA compliant. Total, there are 22 strategic investment areas, which were selected via a data-driven approach by CDOT and also informed by the community through past planning processes. The strategic investment areas also work with a number of other departments to ensure coordination efforts. Next, the mobility section includes a new level of guidance called the mobility assessment, and this is probably my favorite section. This assessment evaluates how well our future mixed-use places are meeting our aspirations, which as it's outlined in the place type descriptions. Now, these assessments should be used by all stakeholders, residents, developers, city officials, to inform future development and infrastructure projects within these areas. For example, if a developer wants to rezone a site within one of these mixed-use locations, they should use this assessment to propose a project that improves conditions. Similarly, community members can evaluate a proposed project against this assessment to determine if the project contributes to the area's aspirations. The open space and community character chapters include a similar assessment because open space and character are important components of the place type aspirations. For the sake of time, I won't share those slides, but I can navigate to them after the presentation so that I can show you an example in one of the community area plans if anyone has any question or want to talk about them together. The next section is environmental justice and sustainability. This section builds upon the comprehensive plan's vision to reduce environmental impacts across Charlotte. It provides more detailed analysis of the environmental impacts within the plan geography. It also introduces heat impacts as a new environmental metric that should be considered in future decision making. On the map, you'll see here that this is called a heat map, and the red areas, the red and yellow areas tend to be the hotter areas, basically. And so an example of an area that it tends to have more heat are areas where there's a lot of asphalt or impervious surfaces, concrete, and low tree canopy. Now, you may be wondering, after adoption, how are community area plans implemented? Well, in general, plans are implemented multiple ways. The private and public sectors both have an important role to play. And so when I refer to the private sector, I'm talking about private property owners, developers, nonprofit organizations. And when I'm referring to the public sector, I'm talking about government agencies. Plans may be implemented through private development, private and public partnerships, capital improvements, and rezonings. Community area plans are an important component of Charlotte's planning framework, but they are only one tool in our toolbox. We also have specific plans in the toolbox which focus on smaller geographies and are more implementation focused. We have the ability to develop this guidance if and when needed across the city. Please keep in mind that planning is cyclical, so we plan to monitor and update recent plans such as the comprehensive plan, community area plans, every 8 to 10 years to ensure that we are achieving what we set out to do in those plans. And it also is identifying how growth is being accounted for. Now, we have reached the next steps portion of the presentation, and I cannot underscore enough that we are currently in the public comment period for all of the 14 community area plans, pardon me. Now, it's important to note this date here. Friday, July 18th is when the public comment period closes, and Friday, July 25th the public comments will be published with the staff responses on our project website. And on Monday, August 4th, A presentation regarding the community area plans will be provided to the City Council Transportation Planning and Development Committee. As far as when City Council will make a decision on the community area planning, all of the community area plans, that is to be determined. But since you all are participating in today's webinar, it means that you have signed up on our mailing list. So please keep an eye out for those updates related to the comprehensive plan, all of the 14 area plans, and when a city council decision will come. On the slide here, if you're interested in utilizing the QR code so that you can access more information about community area plans, please use your phone's camera to scan the QR code and it will take you directly to the website. If you prefer, please feel free to take a picture of the screen so that you can refer back to it at a later date. The website is also listed here. I'll pause for a moment so that you have time to scan the QR code or take a picture. As far as reviewing the plan and feedback, as you are participating in one of our virtual open houses, so thank you again for taking the time to join us and learn more about community area plans. Please feel free, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, and if you joined us later, I can show you how to leave comments on the draft plans. We do have office hours this month on Tuesdays and Thursdays. On Tuesdays, they are being held from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., and on Thursdays from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. We do have hard copies available for your reference at all the libraries. And lines 5 and 6 for the public hearing, that's just highlighting that there was a public hearing on May 12th, and it's just and then the next slide is just highlighting these virtual webinars. But again, thank you for attending. And if you have any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself, and I'm happy to assist and answer your questions.
Hi, this is Carolyn. I've got a couple of questions for you, Carolyn Millen. You
Sure.
mentioned that the community area plans will be reviewed every 8 to 10 years. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Will there be between 8 to 10 years? Will it be like having maintenance, like is done on UDO? If something does come up that you start seeing some possible issues or whatever with the current plan, that you could make some maintenance amendments or that sort of thing?
Thank you for that question.
Do you understand what I'm trying to ask?
I do. So those interim maintenance updates, basically before 8 to 10 years comes up. Um, Kathy Cornett is actually present, so I'm going to allow Kathy to answer that question, please. Thank you.
Hi, Carolyn.
Hey, Kathy.
Hey, so that is a lot of what the specific plans will address. So anytime we have a plan, we understand it's a snapshot in time and there's always unforeseen circumstances or opportunities that can happen. And that is one thing that the specific plan tool can address. And that's why we're broadening the toolbox that is available in specific plans to address issues like you bring up. So I don't think in 8 to 10 years, I wouldn't think we'd do all 14 plans at one time. And there's nothing like magic to say. I'd also say there's nothing written, there's no regulation that says they have to be updated between 8 and 10 years. If some circumstance arises and we feel like one needs to be updated sooner than that, we can certainly do that as well.
Okay, because I just know from being out and talking with people, when you put a number on something, that's what sticks in their head. So that's why I want to make sure that people understand that 8 to 10 years is there, but that doesn't mean that y'all are going to wait 8 to 10 years and nothing can be done in between. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that when I
Yeah,
go out and
yeah,
talk to people.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, it doesn't mean we won't be doing planning, that's for sure.
Okay. And somebody had asked on the previous virtual meeting I was watching, is the alignment zoning still going forward, or has it been halted because of things going on at the state level?
So, great question. The alignment rezoning process is it's still an active project. They are waiting on the adoption of the community area plans and the revised policy map because the zoning districts are tied to the place types. So there's that. And then also in December of 24, there was new state legislation that um, made it virtually impossible at this point for us to do what we would call like a third party rezoning. So rezoning or taking property to a lower zoning district or changing entitlements without the property owner's consent. So the team is exploring right now a process where they'll target smaller areas. And I think they're looking at starting in some of the corridors of opportunities and targeted areas where they can get property owner consent in those areas. But I posted in the last session the link to the alignment rezoning page, and I'll go ahead and post that in the chat for this session as well.
Thank you. And the only other question I have is, today's virtual meeting's being recorded. Will it be on YouTube so I can tell people that can go to the YouTube channel and watch today's virtual meeting?
I'm not sure if we're going to put it on the YouTube page,
Okay.
but it is available. And you know, we are happy to share it. It may be on the YouTube page. I don't know what our plan was for that, but the recordings are available and we're happy to share them.
Okay, thank you. You know, I'm trying to do whatever I can to get it out there. So thank you guys.
Yeah. And also, just in case, you know, folks don't already know this, but any comments that are part of these meetings and anything that's left in the chat will become part of the comments that are available online and that staff will respond to as necessary as well.
Thank you guys.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Carolyn, for your questions. Can you all see my screen? Yes. Okay, great. So I just put in the chat the link to the Charlotte planning videos on YouTube. And so as you can see, a month ago, we posted the webinars from May. And so these recordings that we have available will also be posted. It's just as far as when it will be posted, Kathy and I are not positive. But if you use use this link that I put in the chat, and then if you click on subscribe, you'll be notified automatically whenever we post anything. Are there any other questions?
Not from me. I came a little late, and so I need to do my homework, and then I may have questions later, but appreciate the resources and appreciate the time.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for being here. Nadia, I see your hand up.
Yeah, hi, and hi again to some of you. And I've got I actually live in this area, so I've got a little bit more of my resident hat on in addition to, I guess, advocate hat. Um, and I don't want to get too much in the weeds with specific proposals, but I'm wondering about the relationship, and I don't know if this is part of the community area planning or not, but relationship between how um, let's say a neighborhood center is defined in the UDO and what uses are allowed, and then how the potential need for that to vary from one part of the city to another. And I know that, zoning is a little bit more universal. So I'm asking this specifically because of some recent rezoning petitions in this area, particularly in the kind of Albemarle, Paris area, to add more gas stations, which are permitted as part of a neighborhood center. And, that just seems like the idea of the walkable 10-minute neighborhood kind of local, just because this is an area where there are so many gas stations and so many being built all the time. And I guess I wonder about, uh, you know, in this particular, this is something particular, not just to this part of the city, but it is something that is, of interest here. And I'm just wondering about how to, I don't know, how to raise some of those questions or issues, like where is the appropriate place to go? Because I understand that staff, when they're evaluating, say, a rezoning petition and something is allowed use, then that's fine. But, the question is that use actually appropriate in a particular area or location?
Yeah, that's a great point, and there's often competing interests, Nadia, as you know. But I think that your comments are appropriate here, and and we're happy to take them, and they're also appropriate as part of that specific rezoning petition. So Tolu has what the place type says about neighborhood center, and it sets kind of semi-broad, I guess you'd say, characteristics for each place type. And you're right that a neighborhood center, all of our centers, generally speaking, we want to be walkable. And typically you wouldn't associate a gas station or anything that has like a drive-through or a drive aisle. That can have a lot of pedestrian conflicts. So there's a balance between that and providing convenient uses. So there's that. And as part of the zoning district, the issue is unless there were a variety of different neighborhood center districts that allow some things or don't allow other things, if it's allowed, it's allowed. And at that point, it's basically our staff working with the petitioner to make sure that the proposal is designed to be the most safe and walkable as it can be. But we're happy to take that comment as part of this, but I would encourage you to make it as part of that petition as well. And I think we've heard that from others. The other thing that I would mention is that we're getting ready to do a comprehensive plan assessment, because it's been about 5 years since the comprehensive plan, or it's been almost 5 years since the comprehensive plan was adopted. And part of that assessment work will involve looking at issues such as this and any sort of tweaks or amendments that we want to make to the components of the comprehensive plan, one of which is the place type. Now, that doesn't change the issue that you're talking about, which is the actual zoning district. But those are the things that I can offer you. And unfortunately, there's not anything that's ever black and white. We always have these gray areas, and we're always going to have competing interests and competing goals as well.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. And I'm on it in terms of the rezoning petition. So
yeah, we're happy. I mean, to reinforce it, to take it as part of this process.
Yeah. Well, and I think in some cases I'm thinking not so much about but the actual language in the UDO where it talks about the purpose of a particular, like neighborhood center, but then some of the allowed uses seem to contradict the purpose. But that might vary again, depending on location.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yep. All right. Thanks.
Thank you both. Are there any other questions or comments? We've got about 25 minutes left.
So this is Patricia. So how is this with the bill with the UDO system the way you got it set up right now? How is this going to affect the housing that we already have in this area? Because I see a lot of housing being built, but in apartments or whatever they have, they're putting together. How is it that we are going to have the people that we already have here to be able to live in those places? Because what I see with the focus that I'm looking at is the fact that we have people already here that don't have a place to stay, but we're building and building and building, which I believe in building, but you don't have people for other people, the people that's here to stay, but people are constantly coming in and looking at the numbers that's coming in, and they are able to stay in these places, but you still don't have a place or allocated a place for other people that's already here to live in without being on the streets. Because I keep seeing little things being dug, but at least they're putting the new pipes in because they just put in some over here in my area. But that also affects the whole housing system. So I just want to know, how is that part going to work with the ones that already don't have a place to stay? And some people are getting, just different things are happening because of the way what's happening with floods, with fires, and all those things. So I know I'm kind of mixing things up, but looking at it overall, how is this going to fit? How will we all fit in and be able to move together? You say this is for everybody, but I don't see where everybody is having a place to stay or a place to go and even purchase food. But we have plenty of gas stations, as the young lady just said, spoke before me. We have gas stations, we have car washes, and we have them almost everywhere. So could we address that in some type of way and just give me a better idea, please?
Sure. Um, I'm going to answer your question in parts. So the first part, and please correct me if that's not what you were asking. The first part in which I heard was related to the UDO,
Mhm.
and how and why new development related to residential development is popping up everywhere, and how are we going to accommodate the existing residents and balance the new development that's coming. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So what I presented today related to the East, Middle, and Outer Community Area Plan is a policy document, or it's aspirational. So I'm going to put it into two different categories: policy and regulatory. So with the community area plan being a policy document where we are stipulating what the community vision is, and the goals, and the strategies in which we plan to achieve them. That's basically the narrative, right? And then the regulatory portion is the UDO that you referenced. And so ideally, the UDO is meant to be a tool to implement the 2040 comprehensive plan as well as the community area plans. And ideally, they would match up identically, right?
Mhm.
But transparently, there are instances where that's not the case. And so Kathy referenced earlier alignment rezoning, and that is something that the team, there's another team in the planning department that are working on as best they can. Now, as far as how to ensure that the existing residents are ultimately not displaced. Now, the foundation of the 2040 comprehensive plan is honestly equity. And it's ensuring that as we grow and develop as a city, um, everyone is benefiting from that growth and development, including infrastructure improvements that you referenced, like the upgrades. And there's not a perfect solution, and it's not a black and white answer, but the community area plans do focus on trying to make sure that we are trying to make it equitable for all people. Specifically in the 2040 plan, and I believe it's goal 3, housing access for all, is our affordable housing goal, basically. And that goal is to ensure that we're not leaving people behind. Now, because we have the UDO in place and because ultimately we have the private market, to a certain extent, we can't control, um, you know, how property owners choose to develop their land because that is a right. We do have other tools to mitigate those impacts for all Charlotte residents as best that we can. So one example is the Housing Trust Fund. City Council did approve, I believe it was last year's budget, and please, Kathy, correct me if I'm wrong, additional funding to go towards the development and construction of additional affordable housing units, trying to address the things that you're concerned about, which is displacement of existing residents. And there are also other partners in the community that are nonprofit organizations that are working also to combat that very thing. So to be honest and completely transparent, there's not a clear, easy way to mitigate people being displaced from their home and fighting homelessness and access to essential goods and services. But we are, as a city, partnering with other private partners as best as we can and within our legal toolbox to do so. Now, did I address your questions or comments?
Pretty much everything that you could really, because like you said, everything is not going to be black and white.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Yes, ma'am.
going to be some gray areas in there, and that much I do understand. Of course,
Yes.
I'm a black and white person, but it's like, okay, it's got to be some gray in there somewhere. So
Mm-hmm.
we do have to understand that and then try to work with it the best we can. And I can understand that. And I appreciate your answers. But hopefully we won't wait 10 or 15 years before we check these pipelines because we do have too many holes in the ground and water flowing places that it shouldn't be flowing. Because I see new homes is having those issues. And
Yes,
I don't
ma'am.
know how they'll have it, everything about it. But when I see it in the news, I said people are having wind to blow through their apartment buildings downtown in that downtown area. When the wind blows a certain way, that gives me concern about what they are paying for and what's happening with us in the process. I'm talking about everybody. I'm not just talking about me because thank God for everything that we do have. And hopefully we'll be able to work these processes along the way where everybody can really be involved or have a place to stay. Because that's something that's always should have been for us as Americans, as people in this country and anybody that does come, or whatever the situation may be. We just need to work with it as much as we can. So I do appreciate your answers, and I yield. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. The last comment I'll make related to what you just mentioned, related to the infrastructure and the bursting pipes and things like that. All of our partners throughout the community area planning process have also been a part of this process. So the partners that we're talking about, or I'm talking about, is Charlotte Water, CATS, CDOT, a number of other city departments, but also county partners as well. And to be honest with Miss Patricia, everybody's aware of the concerns that you're having and expressing, regardless of your socioeconomic status, because infrastructure needs are impacting all of us. And so that's why we're having these, we adopted the 2040 plan and we have the UDO, and then we're working on the community area plans to ensure that new growth is also trying to accommodate the need for additional infrastructure. And so these plans, that's part of the intent of these plans, it's to direct where those public dollars are to go for updating and upgrading infrastructure, such as those water lines and even high-speed internet and things of that nature. So thank you so much for being brave and attending this meeting and speaking up because I know it's really difficult. And it's not missed on us that we have so many vulnerable populations in this city, and we are doing our best to ensure that we're bringing them along with us as we grow and develop. Thank you.
Thank you for your assistance, and we appreciate your help. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Are there any other comments and questions?
I just had one question, and I haven't read the East Middle and Outer plan, but I'm wondering if there is a big change in making it this area more pedestrian friendly.
Yes. So let me scroll up. Can you also see the East Middle and Outer plan on the screen? You can? Okay, wonderful.
Yes.
So as I'm scrolling, for the sake of time, all of our place types have built in it mobility aspirations. And we also have the strategic mobility plan that is in trying to ensure basically that um, pedestrian access, so sidewalks, bike facilities, um, intersection improvements that also include signals, pedestrian hybrid beacons, things of that nature to ensure that we are addressing those mobility needs. Now, in the plan, I have a paper copy too. It's easier for me to go to, actually. On page 51, and let me, this is our mobility section here, and it starts on page 32. Now, the mobility section is built on Goal 5, safe and equitable mobility, and that relates directly to our strategic mobility plan, which is also the foundation for that plan. And so we also have, I mentioned in the presentation, the strategic investment areas where it is identifying areas within the city that have those gaps related to access to safe and equitable mobility. So it's sidewalk gaps, it's lack of crosswalks or faded crosswalks. And so these areas are identified for opportunities to rectify that. Then also in the plan, we have one of my favorite parts of this is the mobility assessment. And so when you look at this table, this is the table that lists the mobility aspiration elements, and then it lists each of the place types, specifically the mixed use place types. And so it talks about the pedestrian network, the bike network, the crossings, the length of blocks. And just for frame of reference, block length matter because it makes it easier to walk, and it feels like, in the sense that it feels like you're not walking super long distances. And then the street network related to connectivity. Is it the most direct path, or am I having to go out of my way to access sidewalks for safety? Um, and then it also includes transit access and then internal connections, which is related to, can I drive my car to a location that's typically walkable and park it in one location and then walk to the different destinations, as opposed to having to drive my car to each destination, which is typically what you would see in more of a suburban type of development area. So the mobility assessment has a map that goes with it, and these icons here where it says like M1, M2 are and correspond with this table that you see. So M1, for example, is highlighting Randolph Road and Sharon Amity Road. And this lists the mobility characteristics that we want to see and we can use this to review it against, for example, rezoning proposals that come through or things like that. So if you look at the legend here, the uh, the the circle with the check mark, it means aligned with aspirations. This half circle means somewhat aligned with aspirations, and then the blank circle means not aligned with aspirations. So if I'm using looking at this row, that same example, N1 with Randolph Road and Sharon Amity, this is saying that the pedestrian network is not aligned with our aspirations, meaning it's lacking. So that means there's an opportunity to incorporate um, more sidewalks, make those connections, and make it easier for someone to feel comfortable and safe walking in that area. Same thing with the bike network. It's lacking. The crossings are lacking. The block length are lacking. So you can see here that there's definitely an opportunity to improve it when it comes to pedestrian and mobility access and transit access. Does that answer your question, sir?
That does, and just curious. So does that have a mean it has a priority? The ones you just mentioned?
Yes, it does mean that these areas that we've called out here are priority areas. However, that does not mean that other areas are not important. And an example of that is the city has a bike program and a sidewalk program. So let's say the area you live in doesn't fall within the one of the strategic investment areas, and it's not listed here as one of the priority geographies, then you as a resident can call 311 and you can express concern, for example, about an intersection that leads to, for example, a library in the neighborhood, but there aren't sidewalks that exist or bike lanes. You can ask 311, call 311 and let them know that this is a concern and you are requesting those amenities be placed there. Now, CDOT has their own criteria. They would receive that notification from 311. They would use their criteria to assess, for example, if there's enough right-of-way or public area to fit a sidewalk, to fit, um, other a pedestrian crosswalk or even a bike lane, and they would go from there.
Thank you very much. That answered my question.
You're welcome, sir. Are there any other questions? We've got about 8 minutes.
Real quick, this is Carolyn. Who would I speak to about on the screen you have now M3 North Carolina Independence Boulevard?
Yes, ma'am.
I know it doesn't fit anything except maybe half on the trans access, which makes sense because I can't see putting a bike network or a pedestrian network or crossings because that's one thing they've gotten rid of traffic lights on Independence. That just doesn't make sense for Independence Expressway 74. It's getting ready to get toll lanes to have any of this except for the transit access. So who do I talk to about that?
Well, because you're sharing that feedback with me today, this is being recorded. So what I'll do after the recording is I will capture everyone's comments and questions and I will put it in our spreadsheet. And then by July 25th is when all of the public comments and then the staff responses will be posted to the project website that I shared at the end of my presentation. Does that
Okay,
answer your question?
yeah, thank you, because that just sticks out big
Okay.
time. That's like putting stuff, trying to put pedestrian bike network on I-77. I mean, it's just, it just, yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. And I will note that all of, the mobility section was done, I mentioned earlier, but I'm not sure when you joined the meeting, was done in partnership with CDOT, CATS, and so, and CRTPO. And so your comment, as an example, fits under that mobility comment. And so we would reach out to our partners and they would provide that feedback as well. And that would be uploaded to the project website.
Okay, thank you. And I really appreciate you guys being here today. I
You're
wish there
welcome.
had been more people able to join us, but I really appreciate the people that did join us today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Nadia, I see that your hand is raised.
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to build on a couple of these and wow, this table is really illustrative of this is something that I think is a big deal on the east side, especially because of the area when this part of the city was largely planned. When highways and moving out to the suburbs was kind of the big thing,
Hmm.
even though we're technically not suburbs. And so I'm wondering, this came up in another meeting that I was in terms of how this kind of mobility, you know, matrix also interfaces with things like green space and greenway and that kind of connectivity. I mean, knowing that a lot of that is with the county, but the idea of kind of greenway connectivity, I think, is also something that needs some work in this part of the city. And it seems like that kind of, interfaces with pedestrian access and that sort of thing.
Yes, it does, and that's a great question. So, as far as you mentioned that you know that greenways are under the purview of um, uh, Mecklenburg County Park and Rec, and that is absolutely correct. However, we still they are one of our partners, and so we are aware that they have their own master planning approaches. And so, as far as connecting to existing greenways, whenever, for example, there is a rezoning, and pardon me, what I'm doing is I'm scrolling to the open space section so I can further answer your question related to greenways. So, the county has the MEC playbook, which also includes the goals and strategies for additional greenways and park planning and things of that nature, and connectivity as such. And so, one of those things is as it pertains to parks and greenways, whenever we're reviewing things like a rezoning, as an example, we do look at if it's proximate to a walking trail or a greenway. And the reason why we do that is because it lines up directly with Goal 5, which is equitable mobility for all, but also it lines up with the two TOD, which is transit or trail-oriented development. So even though we're separate entities, all of the plans are intended to basically talk together and mesh to ensure that we are trying to, as much as possible, be in alignment with the connections. Now, I will also use strategic investment areas as an example. Now, technically, I mentioned the improvements are focused on sidewalk gaps, things of that nature, which is separate from greenways. But the hope also is that all of these facilities in the end will connect as much as possible. But because we are separate entities from the county, we can't control the timing or criteria used when it comes to building or designing or locating a greenway. And then also in the plan, I'm starting on page 54. We have an open space assessment comparable to the one I just showed you to with the mobility assessment. So similarly, you have the map with the icons that match the matrix or the table. And it includes the open space current and planned elements. And so it uses the same locations. So Randolph Road as an example and Sharon Amity, and access. This means that it is aligned with aspirations. However, it does demonstrate a need for more, right? Because when it comes to parks and greenways, this is somewhat aligned with aspirations. So to your question, there is an intersection between all of them. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I guess I would love to see, maybe it exists if there's some kind of a plan or a graphic that actually shows like city, CDOT, county, like all of this, because it seems like all of these things, they have different jurisdictions, but how they align and work together, maybe that exists, and I'm just not sure where to find it.
It does, and that's okay. So, can you still see the map?
Mhm.
It says City of Charlotte, and it's the
Yeah.
map. Okay, great. So, for the sake of time, I'm going to kind of speed through this, but I will also make sure that your contact information, if you can go ahead and put that in the chat for me, please, Nadia. That way,
Mhm.
someone can follow up with you. But if you go to Charlotte Explorer, and I will put that in the chat as well. And you and I can hop on a call if you like, so I can walk you through how to use this. But we have layers here, and you have so many different options that you can click on. So you have the CATS transit station layers. You also have the bus stops. You also have the CRTPO layers. Um, and then you have, let's see, the planning, design, and development. And so there are layers also that include the under transportation, it includes the greenways, if I'm not mistaken. But what I'll do, yes, it does. It includes the Cross Charlotte Trail, greenways, you see, and so you can layer this and look at where all of them um, basically are shown on one map. Okay?
Okay. Can you say where was this again?
So I,
I
I
see
put the link
city.
in the chat. Oh,
Oh,
no, I didn't. I didn't enter. There we go. I just put it in the chat now.
okay. Got it.
Wonderful. Well, we've hit our time. We have a hard stop at 1 o'clock. So I just want to thank you all again so much. This was a lot of information. I'm happy that you took the time to join me and ask questions. This has been a lot of fun. If you have additional questions, again, please feel free to go to the website that I referred to earlier, and I will put in the chat some links so that it's easier for you to access. So if you want to find your community area plan geography, there you go. Here's the home of where all of the draft plans live, for the community area plans. And again, you can add your comments. Does everybody know how to add your comments to the draft plans? No? Yes? Maybe? Oh, there's a typo. Nadia, can you come off mute? Where's the typo?
Sorry, in the one, the future CLTX.ci, I don't know, I tried to link on that and it
And
won't
it
go.
didn't work.
Yeah.
Okay. What I'll do is I've got your contact information and I will make sure we send you the link as
Okay,
well.
great.
Okay.
Thanks.
Does everyone know how to leave comments on the draft plans?
No.
No. Okay. I'm going to walk you through that really quickly. So let's say, so you use here's the specific plan that we're talking about right now. So I'm putting that in the chat. So let's say you have a comment on this assessment table and you want to comment on Randolph Road and Sharon Amity Road. You see the cursor here? You would click on it. You see how the dialog box for comments pops up? You would add your full correct name and your correct email address, and then you would add your comment. Then you would add the comment type. So is it a question, concern, support, suggestion? And then you would hit post. Now, when you post it, it automatically saves it, and then it will upload to a spreadsheet where all of your comments will be captured. And that way, if you do have a question, we can follow up with you and provide that response. All public comment responses will be provided by July 25th of next week, whatever that Friday is. Does that help you, sir?
Yes.
Wonderful. Do you need me to explain that again, just in case?
No, I got it.
Wonderful. Okay, well, thank you all again for joining me. I have to conclude the meeting. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.